It all comes down to this. After a grueling 37-week schedule of races that ultimately meant absolutely nothing, it's time for the Cup Series to crown this year's champion in a winner-take-all 4-hour snooze fest at Phoenix. Will Kyle Larson become a two-time champ, or will a first-time champion be crowned? I'm not sure, but for the final time in 2025, there's paint schemes to review. Let's go. It's incredibly hard to believe, but unless Ross Chastain pulls a 2023 Phoenix performance out of his ass this weekend, he'll head into his third year of partnership with Busch Light without giving them a single win. Busch Light actually hasn't seen victory lane since the 2022 Michigan race. I'm not sure if that's a knock on Ross's performance or just a decrease in the amount of races that they're sponsoring, but either way, crazy stat. 10. If Austin Syndrome was on par with his teammates, he would have been racing in Martinsville last weekend with a chance to give Team Penske their fourth championship in a row. But there's a major emphasis on if he was on par with his teammates. 6. I'd love to be able to come on here today and tell you that I came up with something just as clever as Austin Dillon's review for last week, but there's no way I could ever top that. Just keep on hunting, fishing, and sucking every day. 10. Maybe there's something wrong with my brain, or maybe my vision, or hell, maybe there's nothing wrong with me at all. But for whatever reason, when they move this paint scheme from the 38 to the 4, it turns into utter dog shit. 3. Kyle Larson has the chance to do something this weekend that, quite frankly, thanks to Joey Logano, doesn't really mean shit anymore, and that's become a two-time series champion. Having to explain to my kid in 15 years that Joey Logano was in fact not one of the greatest of all time sounds like an absolutely miserable experience. So thanks a lot, NASCAR. Glaze on. 10. Watching Brad Keselowski decline is kind of like watching his co-owner LeBron James decline, except the only difference is I hate LeBron, and Brad Keselowski's not in the middle of a FBI gambling sting. So in hindsight, that's a terrible comparison. I'm sorry, Brad. 10. Things are coming full circle for Justin Haley. Unfortunately for him, this Sunday will be his final Cup start. But next year, he'll go right back to where he started, the Truck Series, with the team that he decided to leave just 2 years ago, Kaulig. I got to give the people over at Kaulig a lot of credit, because if the guy that I helped develop all the way up to the Cup Series came knocking on my door 2 years after quitting on me, looking for a job, I'd tell him that the McDonald's across the street was hiring. I'm just glad he gets to end his Spire career in the same way it started, in an ugly-ass paint scheme. 3. Kyle Busch started his legendary career by winning a race in 19 consecutive seasons. And then 2024 came. And then 2025 came right after. The end. 9. I hate to break it to all the Chase Elliott fans out there, but he was screwed before a hot dog ever hit the grill at Martinsville. That's because the number one chase sexual in all of the land, Sloppy Joe, put a curse on him. Sloppy Joe made a promise to his fans that if Chase Elliott won at Martinsville and locked himself in, that he would immediately buy a plane ticket to Phoenix. And it was all downhill from there. Some races you could blame Alan Gustafson. Some races you can blame the pit crew. Some races you could even blame a lack of talent from Chase Elliott himself. But at Martinsville, you should all blame Sloppy Joe. Great job, Sloppy. I appreciate your service. 5. Maybe the most shocking thing I've seen this week. Aflac's back? Kind of. They're probably the only insurance company on planet Earth that'll cover Ty Dillon after the past few weeks of piss-poor driving. Kind of ironic, though, since he spent all that time with Geico. 4. If you take a quick glance at Denny Hamlin's championship paint scheme, you may think, oh, cool, the progressive colors again. But as someone that pays attention to detail, I'm on to you guys. After an entire season of running a predominantly blue car, all of a sudden they decide to change the seat post to white in the final race? Very interesting. It's almost like the white is easier to get through tech. I'm not going to come out and say they're cheating, but I'm not going to come out and say they're not. I hope your motor makes it to the end, Denny. 8. Ryan Blaney was his sister's ex-boyfriend away from winning in Martinsville and locking into the Final Four for the third year in a row. Personally, I think Ryan should have roughed him up a little bit after the move that Byron pulled on him, but Ryan was probably scared that William would send his Lego army after him. So I get it. 9. Mr. Busher. Not that I'm a conspiracy theorist or a guy that would make poor financial decisions based off of a fortune cookie, but we did get Chinese food last night, and both Emily and I's fortune cookies had 17 listed under the lucky numbers. That could be a coincidence, but I think not. First win of the season, incoming. 10. When they made the announcement last season that Chase Briscoe would be taking over the 19 car, I don't think anybody was expecting this. Especially since Martin Truex spent the last 3 years of his career looking like a blind squirrel chasing after a nut. Through the course of the playoffs, including last week when he finished 37th, this guy's been literally and figuratively on fire. Not to speak for the entire NASCAR fan base, but I think everybody is pulling for Chase Briscoe this weekend. And let's not forget that his Super Seaman brought twins into the world last year, so he could probably use the championship bonus. And his paint scheme's fucked all year. 10. Out of this entire playoff deal, Christopher Bell is a guy I feel really bad for. Because if you think that Chase Briscoe has been consistent through the playoffs, look at Christopher Bell's stats. Outside of a 29th finish at Darlington, his worst finish is 8th. Not to mention the guy had 4 wins this year. Yet he doesn't have a chance to win a championship, which means he'll probably win the race. 10. Joshy! 9. Although I wasn't too thrilled about a William Byron win, I had to take a step back and look at the big picture. At least Joey Logano won't become a 4-time series champion this year. 6. I hope Bubba doesn't fall into a deep, dark depression this offseason because he's got to look back on this year and think, what if? 10. I must admit that tweeting about William Byron fumbling the bag with 200 laps to go last weekend probably wasn't the brightest move. But I'll tell you what, if William Byron doesn't fumble the bag this weekend and takes home a Cup Series championship trophy, I will do whatever the top comment says, within reason. That's how confident I am that Willie B will find a way to tragically fumble the bag in Phoenix. Car fucks though. 10. Let me reiterate, within reason. If you guys tell me to suck Todd Gilliland's toe, I'm not going to do it. 10. Here's your weekly reminder that Riley Herbst does in fact still exist. And unfortunately, you guys are probably all going to forget about him for the next 3 months. Goodbye, Riley. 6. Yet again, Zane Smith brings the Aaron's Dream Machine to a weekend with some tough Paint Scheme of the Week competition. Is this the weekend he finally gets it done? Likely not. 10. At the end of the race on Sunday, Haas Factory Team and Ford can crack open a bottle of Bonanza to celebrate their 9-year partnership that resulted in 0 championships and multiple wins, mostly from Kevin Harvick. On second thought, Gene Haas might want to stay away from the Ford executives because it's more likely they'll want to crack a bottle of Bonanza over his head. So, 7. This was a major season of growth for John Hunter Nemechek and Legacy Motor Club. First of all, Legacy managed to upload their paint schemes to NASCAR.com almost every week. And I finally retired the nickname of John Hunter Wreck-A-Check. Maybe next year we could change it to John Hunter Win-A-Check. 10. It is refreshing to see that Dollar Tree can design a paint scheme that isn't completely terrible. I do have a bone to pick with Eric Jones, though, because of the caution he brought out during green flag pit stops last weekend. That did my boy Ryan Preece no favors. Thanks, Eric. 10. Yeah, Fanatic Sportsbook, that's cool and everything, but I can't use it in Florida. You know what I just found out, though? They have slot machines on the Hard Rock app now. I'm fucked. 9. It's been a tough year for Tyler Reddick. No wins, knocked out of the playoffs, having complications with his newborn son. Not to mention the ongoing lawsuit between NASCAR and the team he races for. There is some good that came out of this season, though. He finally got a haircut. 6. Every time I see this paint scheme, I just wonder, what do you think Hulk Hogan's doing up there in heaven? What a guy. 9. And 9. Here's the hoping the 2026 scheme will look much better. 8. They remember to upload this week. Cool. 4. Before I tell you guys how much I love Ryan Preece, I first have to address all the people crying, "Where's Ty Gibbs?" Well, the truth is, his own team has finally come to grips that he'll never win a race because they didn't even upload his paint scheme on NASCAR.com. Moving on. Gotta give another huge shout out to Ryan Preece for letting my grandpa ride on board with him on Sunday. He gave him a hell of a ride, thought he might have a chance to win, but unfortunately, Pop wasn't riding on board with Ryan's pit crew. Next year, Ryan Preece is going to be a force to reckon with. Clean a couple things up, get better on Saturdays. I'm telling you, multiple race wins. And just a class act guy. Seriously, cannot thank him enough. So although I hate Celsius, I have to show respect. 10. I got a couple notes on the old Tide ride here. First of all, it's always great to see it. It's a beauty. You cannot possibly fuck up a Tide car. But as far as everybody worshipping Tide's big return to NASCAR, did we forget that they've been doing one-off sponsorships for fucking years now? Justin Haley, Eric Jones, do we not remember this? Unless you're telling me that Tide is signed on for a full season worth of sponsorship with Michael McDowell next year, I do not care. Great to see you back. You look beautiful, but let's all move on. 10. While we're still on the topic of Tide, if you want to make a return to make a big deal out of, wouldn't you sponsor the up-and-coming superstar, Carson Hocevar? Not the old, wore-out veteran, McDowell? Shit is just not adding up here. 4. 2026 might be a scary year for me ragging on SVG's ability to race on an oval, because unfortunately it seems that he actually is improving. I'm still going to hold out hope. 8. For the final time at Trackhouse, Cocodrile. I have no idea what I'm looking at, but adios, amigo. 10. And the Pit Stop Diecast Paint Scheme of the Week goes to the Tide Ride. I could crash out about it all I want, but it's easily the winner. Here's this week's top 3. And here's the moment you've all been waiting for. The 2025 Pit Stop Diecast Cup Series Paint Scheme Review champion is Kyle Larson. Along with your final point standings, the trophies represent Paint Scheme of the Week awards, and they're worth an additional 10 bonus points. So although Kyle Larson only won the Paint Scheme of the Week twice, he still was consistent enough to win the championship, because that's how it should be. Later.